Right, we say a lot about me.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about pride and how pride can get in the way of growth. What does pride stunt?
I think it gets in the way of intimacy, for
Yes,
one. It is a defense.
yes.
It holds walls between you and another person.
Hmm.
It stifles vulnerability.
Ooh, write that down.
And on the other side of pride, deep down is shame and fear.
Mm-hmm. Where does it usually come from?
Oh, I mean, lots of places, I guess, your early life experiences. So
Mm-hmm.
some of those core memories and experiences, but then also throughout your life, what happens and what becomes, your experience, you then project expectations onto the world that you're going to get the same again.
Mm.
And then when that happens over and over again, you forge a neural pathway in your brain that
A
is a belief.
recurring narrative.
Exactly. A belief about a particular situation or place,
Mm.
people, even yourself.
Yeah, no, I resonate with that whole pride coming from a place of shame. So something has happened to you,
Yeah.
mostly in your childhood, and you say to yourself, you make a covenant with yourself, I will never feel that, or I will never experience that again.
Mm-hmm.
So you lock it up with pride. Pride can then give birth to other things like anger and, as you say, shame, sometimes guilt. Yeah.
There's a proverb that says pride comes before a fall.
Mm-hmm.
I know not everybody will understand that because in New Zealand, the concept of pride is synonymous with things like sporting achievements.
Yeah, there is
And
there's an attribute of it that's good.
yep, yep. But when I'm talking about pride in this instance, I'm talking about this selfish pride that puffs up and gets in the way of relating to others.
Mm.
So pride comes before a fall. It means that it makes you stumble. It stifles your personal growth, your relational growth.
Your growth. The
It,
whole I don't need
yeah,
fixing.
I don't need you, don't need your opinion. I don't need to change or do anything different. It is a form of arrogance.
Mm. If you're trying to get involved with another person, so relationally, pride is a real stumbling block.
So for the times where I've wanted to give you feedback about
Oh,
something,
come on.
it could be something really small, right? Like, can you finish the kitchen? And 9 times out of 10, you do a beautiful job.
Yes, I do.
But there are some times where, or actually often, like dishes are left out and the maid's expected to come and clear them up.
Yes.
So feedback is given,
Yeah.
and depending on your state of mind, what's on your plate stress wise, you will react or spit back defensively. Or,
The reaction comes from, which I'm trying to stifle now.
yeah.
The reaction comes from not, my subconscious says I haven't measured up.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the story you tell yourself, right? To
Yeah.
be Brene Brown for a second here. The story I'm telling myself is I don't measure up.
Yeah.
And
it's cliche, but she's spot on.
and it's just like the same book that you keep taking down off the shelf and reading again and again and again. And the more you read it, the more you look for it as well. You look for
You start to expect it.
You expect it. You look for examples that affirm that it's true.
Mm.
And so then you see the world through that lens. So when I come at you with just a very, what I would call neutral request, you filter it through this lens of not good enough, and you feel hurt, rejected, all kinds of things.
So the root of it is rejection.
Well, for you it might be, yeah.
For me, yes.
Yeah.
And then pride that flares up.
Yeah.
So but for me, it's been bringing that subconscious narrative to the conscious, and then putting it in its proper place instead of letting the subconscious narrative just dictate my reaction.
And I think it helps to, if you're in a relationship, to be having these kind of conversations around what sort of culture do we want to cultivate between us. And for us, humility is one of those things. So that's the opposite of pride. Humility meaning I value you, I value myself, we can come together, I'm not above you, I can hear you.
That's what makes it digestible, because we had those preliminary conversations about, and you put it into a nice little soundbite for me, and you've reminded me of it many times. You've said, I'm on your team.
Yeah.
that that changed my lens of how, sorry, what you were saying to me, how I was receiving it. But man, there was a deep trenched, and I'm still training it. But if you know that the person who's giving you feedback is on your team, way more easier to digest. And sometimes you have to take the onus of having that preliminary conversation because it doesn't always come to you by default.
I think it's helpful in any relationship. It's never too late to change this, but particularly in new relationships, is to be proactive about these things. What do we want to stand for? What do we want to cultivate together? What are some phrases we can fall back
Yeah,
on?
those are very handy questions to ask. Even ask yourself so that you can present yourself inside that relationship in a proactive space. You don't necessarily have to bring it all out.
Well, maybe that starts a few steps before you enter a relationship, is actually doing the work on yourself.
Mm, yeah. I think if you are on that journey, you attract healed people, attract healed people, hurt people, as they say.
In saying that, it's never too late to begin, right?
Mm.
If you're in a relationship and it's less than ideal, you're having these clashes, it's never too late to begin the healing and the work on yourself. And then that often has a positive flow on effect.
Mm. Mm-hmm.